Hello and welcome to Tonic Studios. I'm Leo and today I'm going to show you how to make a simple scoring board gift box. So this box is going to be really simple and easy to make, and you're only going to need a couple of tools to do it. So I have with me today, I have a guillotine today, but you could use any normal trimmer. I also have a scoring board and a couple of little tools to use with that. You can either use a ball tool or one of our precision gliders, either will work for this. And I also have just a simple metal ruler as well that we'll be using a little bit later. So today I'm going to give you the measurements in both inches and centimetres, but once you are making your own box, stick to just one because they're not exact, so you're going to make sure you want to just do the one. So I'm starting with standard A4 cardstock. Obviously, if you're in America, you can use 8.5 by 11. This will work for you as well. And I'm going to be cutting in inches, but like I said, I will give you centimetres too. So I've got my guillotine here. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut down my cardstock, and I want this to be 8 inches by 10 inches. So I'm going to cut the 10 first. So align that with the 10-inch mark on here. Pop the guide down and then cut. Spin that around. And I want to align this with the 8 on my ruler. Again, pop the guide down and cut. So if you are doing this in centimetres, you're going to want this to be 25 centimetres by 20 centimetres. So that is the cutting out of the way. That's as difficult as that part gets. And I'm going to bring in my scoring board. Now, if you haven't seen this before, I'm going to pop this down. So you have inches on one side. So this is in inches and half-inch increments. And then on the other side, you have this in centimetres. You have centimetres and half centimetres. Now, like I said, I'm working in inches, so I'm going to stick with the inch side. I'm going to flip my cardstock over. So this is our classic cardstock. I've got the weave texture on here, and I actually want to start on the reverse. And I'm working with the 10-inch side first of all. And I'm going to take my ball tool, and at this point, I want to score at every 2 inches. So I'm going to want to go at 2 inches, 4 inches, 6, and 8. So I've spin this around now to the 8-inch side, and this time I'm going to score at 1 inch all the way down, and then 3 inches. So with this, what you're doing is you're lining your ball tool up with the marker on here, and it actually sits into this groove, which is how you get your nice even score line. So you want to give fairly good pressure while you're doing this, just to make sure you get a nice deep score. So I'm doing it at 5 inches this time, and then at 7. Sometimes you might find that it does jump out of the line. As long as you've not scored too hard, that's fine. Just put it back in and keep going. It's not a problem. So I have my piece of cardstock, which now looks like this. Hopefully you can see just about the score lines on there. And we're going to do now a little bit of ruler work and a bit of freehand scoring. So I'm going to pop the scoreboard out of the way. For those of you following along in centimetres, I will just go quickly over those measurements for you. So on the long side, we're doing this at 5 centimetre increments. It's going to be 5, 10, 15 and 20. And then on the short side, it's going to be at 2.5, 7.5, 12.5 and 15.5. That was a lot of maths. There we go. I managed it. But yeah, like I said, don't mix your measurements. Stick to either inches or centimetres because the boxes are ever so slightly differently sized depending on what you're working with. So I have my nicely scored up cardstock. This is the smooth side. I want to switch it back now to the textured side. And we're going to start working on some freehand score lines on here. Now, what I have done is produced a PDF for you, and this will be available up on our website. So you can follow this if you have any issues. And we have also put down here a QR code. So if you print this and come back to it 6 months later and forgotten what I've told you, this will take you back to this video. So I'm going to have this here so I can remember what I'm doing as well. I'm going to pop on my cardstock like this. So this square right in the center is going to be the base of your gift box. So we're going to work from there to make our diagonal lines. So from here, what I want to do, taking a metal ruler or a straight edge of some variety, put your scoring tool right on the cross where these two lines meet. So hopefully you can just see this on here, just on that edge of that center square. I'm going right on the center, put the tool up to it, your ruler or your straight edge, and you want to go straight over to that other point there. And because we don't have the grooves this time, you want to go over it a couple of times and you should end up, hopefully, you can see this. So I now have a diagonal score line up here, It should just about show on there, hopefully. Perfect. And I want to do that for all 4 of the squares that surround that centre one. So again, I'm going to pop my ball tool right on the point that it meets. Line up my ruler to the other side. And this is actually harder under studio lights than it was in the craft room because the lighting is slightly different down here, funnily enough. Okay, so again, a couple of good heavy scores on there because you don't have the grooves to help you out. And same again on this one. And then for the final one. So what you should have now, if you look at this here, and I'll bring in my little template as well so you can see what I'm working with. I've got my central square and then I've got my 4 diagonal lines coming out of there, exactly as they are on my plan. So I'm going to bring my scoreboard back in and we're just going to finish off a couple of cutting lines. This is kind of your guidelines for cutting this time. It should make things a little bit easier for you. So in these squares where we have these diagonal lines, basically we want to end up with a sort of notch that goes like this. And the easiest way that I've done for this is to go from the mark that will hit the center of the square. So if you're working in inches, like I am, I'm using this 3-inch line here. And I just want to go right down to my score line. I'm going to do exactly the same on this side, so it's going to be on the 7-inch line. So I'm just intersecting with the center of that diagonal line. And then I want to do the same at the bottom. So we're not scoring all the way through, we're only going to that diagonal score line.
Does it matter if you do overshoot it a little?
No, not at all. You might just have a little bit of a dink in your finished box. But this is where, you know, we say that there's never an excuse... there's never a mistake in crafting. There's only excuses for embellishments. This is where you're going to add, you know, a drop or a butterfly or a flower or a star. So you'll just hide it with a bit of decoration. So I flip this around. So I'm on the short edge now. I'm doing exactly the same. I want to go to that center point. So in inches, that's going to work out at the 2-inch mark. And I just want to bring that score line down. And at 6. And then the same here. And you can see this isn't quite centered because I'm not actually meeting my score lines, but that's fine. That's just because of, like I say, I can't quite see the lines in the same way that I do upstairs. There we go.
I will say, I'm going to just chuck my producer hat on a minute and say, if you're struggling to see the score lines on this because of how light the card is, there's a link in the description to the PDF.
Yeah.
So go to the PDF and you can follow along and see in clearer detail
exactly what I've done. I know pale grey card possibly wasn't my best choice, but it was the brief I was given, so that's what I've got. So yeah, you will end up with this at the end, basically. This is what we are aiming towards. So scoring all done, we are on to some freehand cutting now, which is where I hope that Alex still has a nice pair of scissors. Yes, there we go. Okay. Next up then, we're going to fold and burnish basically on every single one of these score lines. So you're going to want to make sure that all of your straight lines are going in the direction of the card. So fold over, and this is where I'm going to bring in my precision glider and just make sure that all of my creases are nicely folded. And the same on the next one. And the next one. And this is what's going to give you a nice sort of crisp finish to your completed gift box. So take your time on this step. Obviously I'm going through this at my speed for a video, but you can absolutely take a bit longer if you need to. So that's all of that side, and then we go back the other way. So first on this one. And I do find that using, this is my preference, I don't know, probably other people do it differently. I like to use this sort of rounded end on the precision glider up here, but you can use this side as well. You can use the flat side of this. You can use the point if you want to, personal preference. I just like to use the rounded end. So keep going with this. Couple more. And then the last one. Okay, So there are my score lines all nicely burnished. So now we get to do some cutting. So again, if I bring back in my plan, you'll notice that this is not a nice square shape. We have cut in. So we're going to basically cut a lot of this away. So all of these portions around the edges that are missing on our plan, we're going to cut in around there. I like to use longer scissors for this. I know a lot of people use these for fussy cutting. That would not be my choice. I use these for cutting nice long straight lines because you can just do one single cut. And I'm basically just going to cut along the score lines and use those as my guide.
Could you mark them out in pencil?
You could do if you wanted to, absolutely. I find it easier to score because then, I mean, you need the score lines anyway because you need to be able to fold the box.
Yeah, but if you are using like card like this, could you mark them out in pencil and get rid of them after you've done the score lines?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course you could. That's not a problem at all. I'm just making sure that I'm cutting away the right pieces and not bits that I need. So into that square there. I'm going to cut down. So where we did these that meet our diagonal score line, we're going to basically cut sort of this little notch section here. And I'm just going to use my score lines as my cutting guide for that. So down to there. And let me go this way, across to here. And then that little square can come off there as well. And the reason that I burnish my score lines before I start cutting is you can actually cut right along the score line so you get a nice clean edge. Whereas if you cut before you burnish your score lines, you might find that where the cardstock naturally wants to fold is not where you've actually cut. So that whole piece can go. And then cut down to here. Across here.
Is there a certain kind of card that you'd recommend to do this with?
Yes, I probably would recommend lighter cardstock. So I've gone with classic today, so 216. I mean, you certainly can do it with a heavier weight cardstock. I can't see any reason why a specialty card wouldn't work if you wanted to have like a pattern on here instead of going for an external decoration. I guess it depends on how brave you're feeling. I'd probably say start off with a lighter one. Get used to the scoring and getting the lines in and making sure that it folds nicely. And you could certainly work up to something heavier from there. I always say to start with a lighter weight first for most projects because it's a bit more forgiving. It gives you a bit more wiggle room and flexibility if you need it as well.
And strengthen up with layers.
Exactly.
Sorry, we should introduce Cameron.
We absolutely should.
Instead of just, there's two people behind the cameras today. There's not just one person doing different voices.
That's it. So if you see my hand shaking today, that's because I'm crafting in front of someone new, which makes me nervous as well. How bizarre. I used to do this when I first started when you were filming, didn't I, Alex? I was always nervous starting. I genuinely am as well. My hands are shaking.
Cameron's very judgmental.
Absolutely. Christ, such a taskmaster. I don't even know why, because probably Cam would have absolutely no idea if I'd done this wrong.
Yeah, I got no clue.
Exactly. So I don't know why it makes me nervous, but...
I think the odd thing is as well, this is coming out after Cam would have done lives with us.
I know.
So even though it's the first video he's been involved with, it won't be the first introduction that you lovely people would have had of him.
Some of the older crafters been with us for a while would recognise my voice when I did customer service.
Oh!
I used to do customer service when I started here. So
we mentioned on one of our lives a couple of days ago, obviously the timeline for this is probably all out of whack, but we did mention on a live recently that you'd be around a lot more, and a lot of people did ask after you. They wondered where you'd gone. So I think people are looking forward to having you back as well. So I have now my plan cut, and thankfully it does nicely match what it's meant to. Phew, I have passed that test. So I'm just going to finish off by folding along my diagonal scores now. And you're going to want to fold these inwards, which is a little bit tricky to get them started. So you just kind of need to encourage them from this side. And these are basically going to fold inwards when you complete your little gift box. So again, just fold. Ooh, there it is. On that line. If you try and fold the rest of the box out of the way while you're doing this, it probably will be a bit easier for you. And there is the last one. And that is your basic gift box, believe it or not. So from here, you just pinch in these sides. These are your top tabs. And then that will just sit over the top and you end up with this teensy little cube. So if you're working in inches, you're going to end up with a 2-inch square. If you're working in centimetres, you'll end up with a 5-centimetre square gift box. So depending on obviously what you want to put in it, you can scale this up or down if you're feeling brave. If you want to go a bit smaller, then absolutely do. So I'm going to decorate this, and I'm going to decorate this for a teacher. So like an end of term gift for a teacher. I've got a couple of pieces here that I have pre-done, and I've used for this the ribbon rosette die and stamp set that I'll just put in here because we've got a couple of lovely sentiments in this. So we do have this huge teacher word here, and then lots of other things. We've got you're the greatest, super, world's best, of the year, number one, and so on and so forth. So I thought this was a really great way to celebrate the teacher in your child's life. Good ideas for gifts. And I have a whole bunch of pieces. Let me just grab all of these out. So I've made a couple of little banners. So I've got you're the greatest teacher, number one teacher, a blank one for your child to write on, and super teacher. I've got a little star piece here, a little tab, and like I said, this one is for your kid to write on. I know it's probably a little bit small, so if you feel like you need to fold over a couple of pieces of paper and tuck it onto there, then do. And then another one, thanks for being Teacher of the Year, to go on the top of the box as well. And I'm going to use magnets to close this, which is probably also very brave for me today, but we're going to give it a go. So I have our smaller size magnets here. I'm going to grab one out of the pack first of all. And I want to glue this into my tabs here. This is basically going to be what forms my closure. So I'm going to take one of the sticky circles and put it onto the back of the magnet. I've left the sticky part on the sheet. Of course I have. There we go. Got it. So I want to stick this inside my tag in here. Grab some deluxe, and I'm going to sandwich this magnet in between these two halves. So a bit of glue around the edge because I want to try and hide this as much as possible. And then the silver bit is going to sit over the top. I have given this a pre-score, so I've kind of measured it over the edge of the box to see roughly where I want this to sit, and scored both pieces so they'll sit nicely together like so. So I'm just going to hold this for a few seconds while the glue dries, which is always everyone's favourite part of crafting, waiting for wet glue to dry. What about you, Cam? Do you do much in the way of crafting?
Would not craft like yours, but watercolour and
nice.
that kind of stuff. I did started a game art degree in uni, but I found it was more of a hobby of mine than anything. So some digital, but mainly just real life art.
Nice.
Traditional art.
Excellent. I'm sure there's plenty around the warehouse that would interest you as well then.
I've seen a couple of things. When I started uni, Simon had like all the watercolour pads and the markers, and I was like, that could have been really helpful when I started. So I didn't know he had all that stuff here.
How mean. He didn't bring it home for you? Wow. How mean. Worst. Absolute worst.
You'll end up taking it from the warehouse though. So Karen does. Karen just goes straight to Lauren and goes, Lauren, I'm having that, and just takes it.
She does, or during a weekend, she'll just chuck it in her pockets.
Chuck it in her pockets, yeah.
I was going to say, how many things have you guys nicked?
We don't nick. We appropriate for creative purposes.
For work.
Actually, it is for work. Exactly. We have a genuine need for everything that we misappropriate from around the place, honestly. So yes, moving swiftly on. I'm going to stick this onto the top of my little box like this. So this, where I've put my pre-score line, as you can see on here. So it just sinks over the front like so. So I'm going to glue this into place. Only the top. Don't want to glue the side because you want that piece to open. So hold this all together just to make sure I've got this in the right place. Sit it over the edge. And again, we are back to watching glue dry just for a moment. But I do still prefer to use wet glue. I like that wiggle room. I know we say this quite a lot. Obviously, red liner tape is quicker. But I find that for things that are going to be open and closed quite a bit, which probably this will end up being, that wet glue bond that you get is a little bit stronger and it will have that more longevity. And like I say, you do have that wiggle room as well. So if I didn't quite get this as centered as I would have liked it over the top, I've got that few seconds to slide it around if I need to.
And Alison's not going to shout at you.
And Alison's not going to shout at me, yes. No tape. Name that film. So, next up, magnet number 2. So, what I want to happen is I want this magnet to find itself on here. So, I'm going to try and close this and make sure that I have this the right way around. There we go. Now it is the right way around. So, because obviously magnets have 2 poles, they're going to want to sit a specific way around. I would always recommend that you try and put your magnets together, let them go together, and then stick them in that orientation. It just makes it easier. So you can see I've got my 2 I don't know how best to show you that I've got this in here. Maybe
camera 3,
that
I think.
One. That
there
way.
It is.
There you go. So you can see my magnet is stuck in there. I've got the sides of the box open. I've not folded it in. And I'm going to hide this under one of my decorations, basically. So I'm going to pick one. I have here Super Teacher. I'm sure we've all had a super teacher. Do you remember any of your teachers from school? Anyone that made a specific impression on you?
I had a teacher who was only a substitute, like what do you call? Well, we don't call them substitutes, but you know what I mean. Whatever we call them over here. Who came in while I was in junior school and told us The Hobbit from memory.
Oh, wow. Okay. I can see why that would have made an impression.
That was incredible. Yeah. Like he did. I vividly remember him taking us into the hall and doing the Riddles in the Dark chapter between Gollum and Bilbo.
Right.
And it had a huge impact on me and my pop culture references from then onwards.
Obviously, yeah. As if we hadn't noticed that you're a geek already. For anyone who's not sure about that, Alex is a bit of a nerd. Just a bit. So what I've done is I've just poked this in from the side. There we go. Hopefully you can just see that. So I'm literally just holding this again over the magnet, waiting for glue to dry. But this will just hold the magnet in place. So it'll be there then to help me close the box. And it should be the right way around. It will actually magnet shut and not try and repel itself to ping back open. Not that we've done that before. I think it was... What did we have that problem with? When we did Up and Away, the balloons, the magnets in there, I think, I'm not going to mention any names, one of the 3 of us, stuck all of the magnets around in both the top and the bottom without testing any of them. Luckily, it went on one way, all of the magnets, all 3, because there were 3. It wasn't just like there was one magnet that we had to try and line up. There were 3 magnets on the bottom layer, 3 magnets on the top. The lid had to be a certain specific way round for the magnets to work. Otherwise, it just tried to ping the lid back off again. Yeah. We learned after that you put the magnets on and let them sit first and they'll do their own thing and then you glue them in place.
Should we get people to tell us in the comments who they feel that was?
Who do you think that might have been? Who taught us this very valuable lesson about using craft magnets?
And then in the next weekend, we'll tell you if you were right.
Maybe we will just send something to the person who is correct without actually outing the person who did the bad thing.
Maybe.
I like that method better because, it's not nice to out people. Yeah. Make sure that your magnets are the right way around is the moral of the story there. So I'm just going to finish putting the rest of my decorations now on the inside of the box. This reminds me of, do you remember those... things you used to make in school. Exactly. I think we all had different. We call them in school. Yeah, we all had different words for them. It kind of reminds me of those little messages all around the inside. Very similar kind of thing. So you used to have colours on the front and then numbers, and then under each flap there'd be different things depending on
who you were going to kiss.
Yeah, I was going to say it normally had boys' names under there. Let's be fair. It did. Or probably girls' names in your case. So, last one going in. Pop that in there. Because I'm not holding it for magnets, I don't have to wait for it to dry. So, close this all back up again. The magnets thankfully grabs that under there. And then I'm just going to put these bits on the top. So I have a nice little banner, thanks for being Teacher of the Year, and a little superstar, because I'm sure for a lot of you that have children in school, you're very grateful for their teachers and for all that they do. You haven't quite reached that point yet where you've got teachers that you need to thank.
No, my little one starts school in September.
Oh, wow. Big step.
Yeah. So we were just discussing, because she obviously finishes in nursery in the next couple of weeks. So we were discussing presents for the sort of key workers that have had the biggest impact on her, the ones that she speaks about the most. So
nice. What kind of things do you gift? I mean, I've not had to teach gifts for a very long time.
We were talking about it'll probably end up being chocolates, like a communal chocolates for everyone. But we might get little gift boxes of chocolates then for the 3 or 4 that have been with her all the way through. Because she's been there since she was sort of 10 months old.
Oh, wow, a long time.
So,
yeah, really long time then. Okay, last little bit of decoration going on. And there is my finished mini gift box. So decorated on the top. I've added a little star on the side. And then if I pop this open, you've got all of those little paddles inside as well, just like so. Thank your child's teacher or your own teacher if you fancied making this for someone that has been there for you. And it doesn't have to be just for a teacher either. This would be perfect for lots of teeny tiny little gifts. So I hope you have enjoyed that and it's given you some inspiration of something you can do. Thank you very much for joining me today. If you have liked this kind of video, please do give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time we post new content. The products that I've used today are available on our website, so you can get them now. Don't forget, if you are a Kit subscriber, you can use your TCK code and you will get 10% off. If you do give this project a go, please tag us in your makes, pop them either onto the Facebook group or on Instagram or social media of your choice and use the hashtag #ShowTonic so we can see what you're making as well. Thank you again for joining us and we'll see you soon. Happy crafting.